Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever episode of Game Clock, your new favorite sports show. I'm your host, Michael Poehls, and we are taking after the tried and true method of game timing based on the game clock from your favorite sports like football and basketball. The way we're going to approach this is we have 4 quarters. Each quarter has a topic. I'll talk about the topic during the time, and once the time is up, that's the quarter. You're on to the next one. We'll have a 5-minute halftime show where I talk about something a little bit interesting. Today, we're going to be talking about divisions. I'm going to be predicting who I think is going to win the different divisions, NFC West, AFC South, all the different divisions, and I'll be talking a little bit about the Micah Parsons trade during the halftime show. First things first, we're going to get into the NFC West. We're going to start with the West. Second's going to be the North. Third is going to be the East. And fourth is going to be the South. So let's get into it and start the clock. Where's start? Clock's running. We're going to start off in the NFC West. This is the one I'm most familiar with, as I've grown up an Arizona Cardinals fan. And to no one's shock, I have the Cardinals winning the NFC West. Well, to some people's shock. I predict the Cardinals are going to win the NFC West based primarily a lot on their defensive additions. Their defensive additions such as Josh Sweat, they drafted Will Johnson, and Max Melton was still a very strong and comparable corner that people heavily underrated as he was statistically a very strong corner. I think Jonathan Gannon is a defensive-minded coach. That's where he has shined in the past is his defense. That's why the Cardinals hired him. Monty Osborne knows what he's doing at GM. Though the Cardinals have not taken huge steps up regarding their offense, and they haven't made any huge changes, what they have done is continued to retain players, and I believe that Petzing, who is the offensive coordinator, is going to take steps to better utilize Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. came back 20 pounds heavier during this training camp and looks to be ready to take on that deep threat that Petzing wants to use him as. Now that leaves the rest of the West. Who do I have falling in second, third, and fourth? What I will start off with is I think fourth is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks have lost their starting quarterback, Geno Smith. They traded him and signed Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold, I think his success was a result of a very high-level offensive coordinator that is Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is a fantastic coach and a fantastic coordinator. He puts guys in the right position. Darnold was able to run it. Seattle, he is in a defensive-minded team. The coach is a defensive-minded coach, and he is going into a system that I don't necessarily think rewards his play style. I also think that though the Seattle will have a top-level defense, I don't think their offense is going to be comparable enough to get them over that hump. What I will say, and what I would like to preface, is I think the West is going to be the best division. The NFC West is going to be the best division in football. I easily could see the top 3 teams that I'm about to list, going to the the NFC playoffs just because these teams are that talented. Finishing second, now what I will say is 2 and 3 are 1, 2, and 3 are pretty interchangeable. I very well think the Seahawks are going to finish last. I think that in second place is going to be the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams are coming back with some great additions. Though they lost Cooper Kupp and the Seahawks did add him, I don't think Kupp is in a huge point. Puka Nacua was essentially taking over his role, and they added a deep threat in Devontae Adams. That's going to pull some of the attention away from Puka, and I think it's going to just add more addition and add more opportunities for Puka to succeed and for Devontae Adams to succeed. Stafford is an elite quarterback. He's shown that. Obviously, he's getting up there in age, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the thing that hinders or holds him back to succeed in this upcoming season. And they still have Sean McVay, who is arguably the best head coach in the NFL right now. Argument with Kyle Shanahan and Jim Harbaugh and a couple of those others. Outside of those couple, I don't see there being huge changes from that. So I have the Rams at second. They also have Jared Verse, who was a fantastic edge rusher. I think defensively they're a strong team. In third, I have the Niners, but I still think the Niners are a 10-win team. I still think they're a team that could sneak their way into the playoffs. They lost quite a few guys. They lost Talanoa Hufanga. They lost Drake Greenlaw. Greenlaw did not play last season, so it didn't make a huge difference. However, they also they got rid of Deebo Samuel. But the other piece is that they paid Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's going to be playing like he's paid. My man got a bag, $250 million to play for the 49ers. I could very well see him seeing a lot of success in this next season. I don't know or trust Ayuk or Pearsall to step up in the role. Again, Ayuk's coming off an ACL injury. CMC, who was essentially the offense the year they went to the Super Bowl, is coming back from a calf strain injury, which is in the past has been shown as signs of a possible Achilles rupture in the future. Calf strains oftentimes can lead to Achilles ruptures. But all in all, I think the NFC West is going to finish. I think the Cardinals are going to win the NFC West, which is going to be a shocker to most people. I think the Rams are going to finish second. I think the Niners are going to finish third. And I think the Seahawks are going to finish fourth. That now takes me on to the NFC, not the NFC, the AFC West. The Chiefs are going to win the AFC West. They have Patrick Mahomes. Cut and dry. I don't see any world where I could see one world where they are not the winners of the NFC West, the AFC West. Apologies. I see them being a team that is going to succeed solely because of him being Patrick Mahomes and possibly seeing some success on a defensive side of the ball. Steve Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator, and I think that they can still be a strong team. They have one of the best coach teams. In second, I have the Broncos, and that's a team I easily could see beating the Chiefs this year for the AFC West. The Broncos have strengthened their defense. They brought in Talanoa Hufanga. They brought in Dre Greenlaw. They already had a strong, arguably top 5 defense in the NFL, and they just added these guys, and now their offense was finally getting in a rhythm. They're gonna have a second year Bo Nix. Bo Nix had to have those classic growing pains that you see from rookie quarterbacks, and it took him a bit, but once Sean McVay realized, okay, this is how we can utilize him, I think he's gonna take a step up. I think you're gonna see success from them. You're gonna have Cortland Sutton. You're gonna have a really strong team, and I think that the Broncos could easily beat the Chiefs, but I do still have the Chiefs winning the West. The Broncos are going to finish second. And then in third is going to be the Chargers. I think the Chargers are great. They have Justin Herbert. Herbert is a top 5 talent quarterback, but he has not been proven to be a top 5 quarterback. He does not have the accolades or the success. Obviously, it's a team sport, but he has not shown any form of clutch in the big moments. They lost a 27-3 lead against the Jaguars back in 2021. And looking back on it, Herbert has not been the reason that his team has succeeded in the past. Obviously, the defenses have crumbled, but he threw 4 picks. He threw more picks in one playoff game against the Houston Texans that a lot of people saw as just a clean sweep draw for the Chargers. They saw the Chargers just bulldozing them, and then he throws 4 picks, which is more than he threw in the entire season. So I really struggle with being like, yes, I'm on the Herbert bandwagon because he has not shown it in the moments that matter. He puts up big stats. He has a big arm. He has everything you want in a quarterback, but he has not been able to get it done, and that's why I have them at 3. And then to my Raiders fans, I'm sorry, you guys are 4th. I think you guys are going to have a great running back. I think Ashton Jeanty was a fantastic pick for you guys. I think Pete Carroll will improve the team much better than you had with Antonio Pierce and Mike McDaniels. That's his name. Is it Mike McDaniel? Yeah, Regardless, the last Raiders head coach. Regardless, I think that Ashton Jeanty is going to be the bright spot on that team. I don't have Geno Smith as a top level. I don't have him as a top level quarterback. Some people have him as a top 10, and I can't stomach that. Not just as a past Cardinals fan, but also just in general. I don't think he has the talent to be called a top 10 quarterback. I think Jeanty is going to be the bright spot on that team. I think Bowers is going to be the bright spot on that team. Those are 2 of the youngest and probably going to be the brightest spots. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be the best rookie running back in the entire league. I think that you're going to have a absolute gem in Brock Bowers as a tight end, and I think Max Crosby is one of the best defensive players in the league, top 5 arguably. Just versatility-wise, I think his edge rushing and his run stopping, he is one of the more well-rounded guys. I think I rate him higher than Trey Hendrickson, and Trey Hendrickson was the sack leader last year. So I think the Raiders have bright spots, but I don't think those bright spots are enough to shine out the dark, not good spots of it. Jacoby Meyer requested a trade. Like, they don't have the talent around right now to succeed as a team, and I think that scares me, and I think that's why I have the Raiders 4. So, to wrap up the entire West, the NFC West, I have the Cardinals winning. I have the Rams getting second. I have the Niners getting third. I have the Seahawks getting fourth. And in the AFC West, I have the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers, and then the Raiders. And I think John Harbaugh, fantastic head coach. He is a fantastic head coach. He's a run-first guy. I think they'll be a good team. These are two of probably the strongest divisions in the NFL, I would argue. There's only two that I really could see competing in these range of like, oh, these are ones where you don't have kind of clear cut. These are the cream of the crop. And we'll be getting into the next most competitive teams in the next quarter, which is currently the clock winding down from 15. We beat the clock, which I was not expecting. I was expecting to yap a lot longer. So we're going to get into the next quarter once the clock runs out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going on it. Okay. Oh, we're restarting the clock. Okay, now we're on to the North, and we're going to start in the NFC North. Out in the NFC North this is where I could see it be. This is where you can have the argument about which conference division is the most competitive in the NFC. It's the West or the North. The North has 4 teams that easily all could go for 10, 12 wins easily. But that's not how it works because they're going to beat up on each other. I currently go to school in Minnesota. And this hurts for me to say to all of my Minnesota sports fans that I am friends with. I have the Vikings finishing last in the NFC North. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be great. I think this team can be great. I don't think that it's going to succeed out. I just think rankings-wise, I think they're going to be a good team, but I don't think they're going to beat the other teams in the league. I think they're going to see a steep drop-off in the wins they had last year because they don't have that continuity with Sam Darnold. I think J.J. McCarthy is a rookie quarterback. Like, you're putting everything into the hands of a rookie quarterback, which isn't a bad thing, but when you are going in with the most well-rounded system possible to succeed, and everyone's like, you got to succeed, that's an immense amount of pressure, and I don't know how J.J. is going to handle it. Next is third in the NFC North, and I have the Chicago Bears. I think Ben Johnson, as the head coach, is going to give them a much better offense and much more comparable offense. I think they've had a good defense. I think they have Montez Sweat. They still have some very good pieces on their defensive side of the ball. I think they'll still be a good defensive team. I think they'll be an above-average team. Plain and simple. I think Caleb Williams is a very good player. I think he can do the right things. He has just needed someone who is able to help hone and sharpen him as a passer, and I think Ben Johnson can do that. I think Ben Johnson is going to be that guy. I think Adunze is going to take a jump. I think DJ Moore is going to continue to be an elite receiver, but I think Adunze is going to take that jump. I think that it's just they brought in another rookie wide receiver who I'm currently blanking on. I think it was Luther Burden. I think that's the right name. Regardless, I see the Bears finishing third. That gets us to the second. Well, actually, I'm going to talk about the first team. If you had asked me 2 weeks ago which team I saw winning the NFC North, I probably would have said the Lions, or I would have been bold and said the Bears. I now have the Packers winning the NFC North off of one trade. They brought in Micah Parsons. That trade is the equivalent of the Luka Doncic trade. Micah Parsons is a top 3 defensive player in the NFL, and they got him for 2 first-round draft picks and Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark's a good player, but he's not Micah Parsons. I will talk more about this in my Micah Parsons rant, but right now, just to note, I have the Packers finishing first. Matt LaFleur is a fantastic offensive coordinator. I think that they absolutely elevated their defense to a much higher level than I think anyone expected with this Micah Parsons trade. I could very well see them winning the North, and not comfortably, but somewhat comfortably. I think that they will be a very good team. Jordan Love, I trust Jordan Love. I think that they're going to have a very strong receiving core this year, whereas they haven't had that necessarily in the past. And I think that that's a big deal for them, is having some good wide receivers. And Yeah, and then I'll talk about the Lions as well. The Lions I have as second. The Lions really only lost pieces. They didn't really gain anyone huge. They're still good. Frank Ragnow retired, so they lost their starting center. Ben Johnson and their DC, I forgot the DC's name, both left. So you're having two new coordinators in the Lions position. The Lions were manhandling people last year. And I don't think they're going to go back to that level of dominance. I think they'll still be a very good team. I think that they will be very good. They still have Jared Goff. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Penei Sewell. They have all of Jahmyr Gibbs, who's going to be a shining star. They still have David Montgomery. Their offense is going to be fantastic. Their defense, they lost some other pieces, but they are getting back Aiden Hutchinson from injury. They still have Jack Campbell. They still have what's his name? Alonzo. They have a good team. They have one of the top teams in the NFL. I do think the Packers, though, win strictly because they finally have a competent edge rusher, which is one of the things that I think has been a weakness in the past. And if they stay healthy and Jordan Love shows people who he can be, I think we really can see a huge jump regarding his capacity and regarding the Packers' play. But let's move on to the AFC North. Fourth is the Browns. We all know the Browns are going to be the last place team in the North. They're arguably going to be the last team in the NFL, total. There's only one other team that I could see possibly going for more losses than them. And I will talk about that team later, but the Browns' only shining spots are like their defense with Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett, but they have no good options offensively. They have Jerry Jeudy as a number one receiver, but who's their quarterback? Joe Flacco, who is a 40-year-old man who the only reason he was playing last season was because Anthony Richardson didn't know how to throw a football. Understand that the Browns are not in a good spot. They are not in a good spot. Shedeur Sanders probably should be their starter, which is a crazy thing to say. Dylan Gabriel has not paid off the way they thought it would. I think the Browns are in a very bad spot. They're going to lose the AFC North. And then I'm going to talk about these three teams, and because I want to let everyone know. The Ravens are going to win the AFC North. Lamar Jackson is fantastic. They still have Derrick Henry. Jim Harbaugh, I believe it's Jim. I think Jim is I can't remember which is which. Regardless, one of the Harbaughs is the coach of the Ravens. And they're just a very well-coached team. They're going to be a good team. They've been a good team. You still have Lamar Jackson. You have the arguably number one quarterback in the NFL right now. You're going to be a good team. And they have one of the better defenses in that. They have probably the second best defense and the second best offense, but that still makes them the best team. Because I have them winning, but in second, I have the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the number one offense in their division because you have Chase Brown, Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase with T. Higgins. You have the best offense, one of the best offenses in the league. And you have the fourth best defense in your division. You are arguably going to be the 32nd. You're not going to be the 32nd, but it's going to be a very bad defense. So I have the Bengals finishing second because I think that they're going to outscore opponents. And the thing is I think that the defense, though it will hurt them, I think that their offense will be able to outscore the lack of defense. Because in third, I have the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers came in. This is old man Aaron Rodgers, who is not the Aaron Rodgers from 2015 who was throwing Hail Marys and was able to get beat by the Cardinals. And so understand that it is a team that is no longer, there's no future for the Steelers. They have to win now. And DK Metcalf is not as good as everyone thought. I think them trading in George Pickens is interesting, but I think DK Metcalf not going to be that good. I don't think he is that good. I think he was highly overrated. I think he just had a wow factor. I think that they have Jalen Warren as their running back, which isn't a bad running back, but it's not the best. And then defensively, obviously TJ Watt. They have a great defense. I don't deny the strong defense that the Steelers have. That is why they will finish third and probably finish with a winning record of 9-8 because somehow, some way, they pull out a winning record every year. They're either 500 or above. It's mind-boggling. But I don't see the Steelers making huge waves. I see them being third in their division. So to put that all into perspective, I have the Ravens winning the AFC North. In second, I have the Bengals. In third, I have the Charger. That's the wrong division. In third, I have the Steelers. In fourth, I have the Browns. And then for the NFC North, I have the Packers winning it all. I have the Lions in second, the Bears in the third, and the Vikings in the fourth. And I just want to PSA to all of my Vikings fan friends. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I have to rate them. Somebody has to lose the division, and I can't in right mind put any team at the bottom outside of maybe the Bears. The Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to have the biggest drop off when it comes to wins. So, and now we once again have more time draining off the clock, and we're going to get to head to halftime, which actually plays into fact with the NFC North. So we're going to quickly edit the timer once it stops. There we go. Stop. Oh, okay. Edit timer. Oh no. Five-minute halftime show. Halftime show. What up? Okay. The halftime show. I'm talking about the Micah Parsons trade. Jerry Jones is the worst GM in the NFL. Jerry Jones is the worst GM in the NFL. You have a top 3 defensive player. Okay, first off, I'm going to provide some context. Micah Parsons was a player drafted out of Penn State by the Cowboys. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler. He was consistently top 5 in sacks. It was a top 3 player in the NFL defensively. His name is up there with Myles Garrett, who is the edge rusher for the Browns, and TJ Watt, who is the edge rusher for the Steelers. Those 3 guys are arguably the best players in the NFL defensively, excluding maybe like Pat Surtain, but that's an oddity. Micah Parsons wanted to stay in Dallas. He grew up a Cowboys fan. He dreamed of being a Cowboy. And Jerry Jones handled himself so poorly that he literally caused him to leave. Literally had him like, I have to demand a trade because you are not signing me. Micah wanted to get a deal done. His biggest thing was he just wanted a deal done. He didn't want to say, his agents were telling him, hey, let the market wait. Let the market settle so we can see where you end up. But no, he decided, I'm going to get my deal done because I want to play in Dallas for the rest of my career. And something happened to fracture that relationship, and he ended up getting traded to the Green Bay Packers, which mind you, 2 years ago, back when the Cowboys were in the NFC playoffs, they got whooped by the Packers. And instead of trading him to some team that will pay a good price and is a team that's somewhat of a contender but not a huge rival, you pick a team that is a rival team that has beaten you on multiple occasions. And so he gets traded to the Packers for Kenny Green, who had a large cap hit coming up, and I think that now the Cowboys have to pay that, and 2 first-round picks, which there were players that were traded for more than that were worse players than Micah Parsons have been. And that, to me, is a staggering fact. That other players have gotten bigger hauls than Micah did. 2 first-round picks. Great. First-round picks are a big deal. But then they sign a 4-year deal with he signs a 4-year deal with the Packers. The Packers don't care. They're not trying to shoot for the moon with edge rushers when they have one of the top 3 guys in the NFL. I literally think that this trade alone is going to make Green Bay a divisional winner. In one trade. Like, it is unfathomable to me, this kind of trade. Like, the fact that Micah was traded. This man wanted to stay. He was a homer. He's like, I want to be a Cowboy. And Jerry Jones says, you're being rude. That's not what he was. He wanted to get paid. He wanted to stay in Dallas. But what did he want? What did Jerry Jones want? To not sign him. And it boggles me the way in which that was handled. So from that perspective, I think that the Micah trade was huge. I think it will be very pivotal. I think it hurt the Cowboys an immense amount to lose Micah, who is a top 3 player. I think the Green Bay Packers, as I just previously mentioned, are going to be a divisional winner solely off of this Micah trade. Looking at it, it is hard to recognize that the NFL is becoming it has become a league kind of like this, because the NBA is a league where players get traded like nobody's business. Kevin Durant gets players get traded a lot, and big players get traded a lot, and that's why people tend to be star fans, not team fans in the NBA. The NFL is starting to become that, because players are demanding trades more and more, and these players that you think are going to stick around for years and are going to be a face of your franchise want to demand a trade because they want out or they want more money or things like that. So it's just the way in which it's working. The business is becoming more player focused, which I think is great for the players, and I think is a good situation. But it's hard when you're someone like Cowboys fans. If you had asked them a year ago or even at the end of the season, who do you see being here the rest of their career, they would have said Micah, and I think that's just a telltale sign. And now, after that beautiful noise, we're gonna get into the next divisions. But first off, water break. And second off, we're gonna have a little quick commercial break by who? Game Clock Entertainment. Please follow the Twitch channel, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Comment any questions you may have for me. I would love to do a Q&A episode. Just please subscribe, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, all of the different social medias. Really want to explore and develop in broadcasting, and so this is the way I'm doing it. So that's my self-promotion plug for Game Clock. Now let's get ourselves on to the East. First things first, we're going to do the NFC East. Once again, we're following the same format, NFC, AFC. In the NFC East, the Eagles win the division. I don't think that's a shocker. I don't think people would be like, that's not a good pick. No, the Eagles are winning the NFC East. The Eagles have not lost huge amounts of players. They obviously lost a couple, but they retained a lot of their players. Jalen Hurts is still a top 10 quarterback. I don't have him top 5. For people who want to argue with me, argue at a wall, I don't have him top 5. Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback. You have Saquon, who is the number 1 running back in the NFL right now. That is something people can argue at a wall with. He just ran for 2,000 yards. That man is the number 1 running back coming off one of the top most dominant seasons we've seen from a running back. They have one of the best O-lines in the NFL. They still have one of the best receiver duos with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. There is no world, unless like their entire team gets obliterated with injuries, which I do not wish upon anyone. Injuries are not fun. I don't see any world in which the Eagles don't win the NFC East. In second, I have the Washington Commanders. I think Jaden Daniels is that guy. I think he's like that. I want him to continue to be like that. I think he's a fantastic player. He played at ASU, played at LSU, came in, had one of the best seasons. The crazy thing is he had one of the best seasons for a quarterback in NFL history as a rookie. Just after C.J. Stroud, a year before him, had another massive, crazy rookie year. So we're starting to see some rookie quarterbacks step up and be like, oh yeah, we're that guy. And then there's other quarterbacks who tend to be the first-round picks who struggle immensely. Jaden Daniels got picked 3rd and was not as highly rated as a Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams got drafted before him. Like, I think it's interesting the more that we're seeing guys get drafted in these different positions. But, like I was saying, I think the Commanders finished second. I think that Jaden Daniels is clearly that guy. I think that they signed Terry McLaurin to an extension, which he was talking about trades, and he just wanted to stay in Washington. Everyone knew he wanted to stay in Washington. He was just using it as a tactic to get some more money. And then you have Deebo Samuel as another receiver. You have a Brian Robinson Jr. I believe he's still with the team as your running back, and I think that they're still going to be a good team. Cliff Kingsbury is their OC, and as Cliff as an OC is great. I don't think he's a good head coach. I think he's a good OC. I would be shocked if a team tries to hire him as a head coach after the success he's had. It would surprise me. I think it could happen? Absolutely, because this is how the NFL works. But I think the Commanders finish second because that leaves the Cowboys, who the Cowboys have not made many big steps when it comes to the defense. Offensively, still have CeeDee Lamb, still have Dakota Prescott. Like, they're still going to be a good team. Dak being healthy will be a big deal, but I don't think it's going to be the thing that, like, makes them, oh, we're going to take back the NFC East. No, you're not. It's going to be the Eagles. The Eagles are going to win the East. There's no world in which the Eagles lose the East, except for injuries. Washington Commanders finish second. Cowboys finish third. And now it's time for me to talk about the New York Giants. When I mentioned that I thought the Browns were going to be the worst team in the NFL, I said there was one team that I think might be able to beat them in losses. And that team is the New York Giants. I think the Giants have had a stellar, superb draft. I think Jackson Dart is a great pick. I genuinely love Jackson Dart pick. I thought he was better. I liked him better than Shador. I truly liked him as one of those guys that I was like, yes, this is a good quarterback. I like Scattaboo. They picked up Scattaboo. Scat was a freaking utility knife of a guy, huge effort. Like, that guy, what he did at ASU, you have to respect it. I think he'll be a very good player. They have some good defensive pieces. They have Brian Burns. They have Kayvon Thibodeau. Outside of that, though, they're not in a good spot. I think the Browns are still going to be a worse team, but I do see the Giants still finishing last in the East. I very well could see them being one of the last teams in the NFL. Well, the second to last team in the NFL. There's one worse team that I will talk about later in the next quarter. But yeah, that sums up my NFC East predictions. Eagles win, Commanders second, Cowboys third, Giants fourth. You're not going to see much different out of other people's predictions. It's just kind of what everyone's accepted. Now we get to the AFC East. AFC East, the Bills are going to win the AFC East. That is, it's death, taxes, and Josh Allen are the things that are assured in life, because apparently this man came into the Bills and just said, I'm like that, I'm winning everything. That is the way in which I have viewed Josh Allen with the Bills. It doesn't matter who you put out at wide receiver. It doesn't matter who's at running back. Doesn't matter the O-line. This man is going to will his team to wins. Plain and simple. And they added defensive pieces. They added Joey Bosa. They added some other interesting pieces, and I think they're going to be a good team. They have Keon Coleman. They just brought back Gabe Davis, which is nice because Allen has that connection. So I think offensive production-wise, you could see a better year from Josh Allen than his previous MVP year. You have an MVP-winning quarterback. I have nothing but good things to say about the Bills. I think the Bills will be a fantastic team. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, like you just have good players around him, and you have Josh Allen, who is the second top three. The top three are interchangeable for me. The top three are Lamar, Mahomes, Allen. That's my top three, and I think that's where you can start to see some debate, but it is what it is. Second, I have the Patriots. To some, that comes as a shock. To others, they're like, this guy knows ball. Mike Vrabel is a fantastic head coach, and him getting fired from the Titans is still one of the most flabbergasting things to me ever. I think Mike Vrabel is a fantastic head coach. I think he's a defensive-minded coach, but he's a good coach. I think Drake May is one of the most talented quarterbacks. I think he has a big arm. I think he thinks he's smart. He plays well. They brought in Stephon Diggs as a target. The Patriots have done nothing but the right things when it comes to what they've been doing drafting. They brought in Will Campbell, who I think is going to be a elite tackle, which I think here's the thing. You saw the same success picking up a big, good tackle with the Chargers. The Chargers have two of the best tackles, and who's protected? Herbert. They want to protect their guy, and that's Drake May. And I think Drake May is like that. I think he's a very, very good quarterback. I think they will see a significant jump in wins. And I think that you're going to see why Drake May is like that. I think people are going to start to respect Drake May more. In third, I have the Jets. I think Justin Fields it's a wow guy. He's going to I think he's going to make some stuff happen. I think with what he can do with his feet, he's going to make an interesting team. They still have Garrett Wilson, who is a I think, a very good wide receiver. He's not as I think he wasn't as good because he didn't have the same chemistry with Rodgers, and Rodgers didn't have the same throwing mechanics that he used to. But I think that it is still a situation where it is a good, proficient team. But they're just not. They're not going to be as good as the Pats and the Bills. And then comes the Dolphins. I have the Dolphins finishing last in the division, and that is for a couple of reasons. I don't think Tyreek Hill is as good as he used to be. Tyreek Hill is washed. I think Jalen Waddle has not been what they expected. And this is where I have to get on my high horse and talk to Tua Tagovailoa. Tua has increased his risk exponentially for getting a concussion because he continues to come back from concussions. He has had a fencing response almost every time he has gotten a concussion in the past season. I think Tua scares me as being your quarterback and being the guy that you put your faith in, and that for me is worrisome. And I think that that's why I personally I'm not high on the Fins. I think Tua probably is gone after this next season. I think the Fins are not going to be a good team. I think they're going to lose their division, and I think that that's going to result in Tua being on the out, which is a bummer because Tua is a great guy, but as a quarterback has not been as proficient as he should, and because of his injuries and his history with concussions, I think that it's just going to hurt him. Also, defensively, they don't have much. They're really not a strong defensive team. Offensively was their strength, and I think Tua is on the outs with them. I think Tyreek Hill is washed. I think... Is it Mike McDaniel? No, it's not Mike McDaniels. It's Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniels, who's the head coach of the Dolphins. I think he's going to be I think he's a good head coach. I think he's a good OC. He learned from Kyle Shanahan. He gets guys open, but I don't think that I think they're going to lose a lot more games, and I think he could be on the out in Miami. I think he's on the hot seat a little bit. If they don't succeed this season, I think they very well could get rid of him. I don't know. That's just some thoughts for you, but I have the East finishing Bills 1, Pats 2, Jets 3, and the Fins 4. And now we get on to the most interesting. And by most interesting, I mean the worst divisions in the NFL. The worst divisions in the NFL. The South. We're going to start in the NFC South. The Buccaneers are winning the NFC South. There is no team outside of the Falcons that looks like it's going to be the competent team that's going to be like, yes, you are the team that beats the Buccaneers this year. That's not the case. The Buccaneers brought back Chris Godwin. They brought back Mike Evans. They still have Baker Mayfield. They have Bucky Irving. They have a great offense, and their defense is still is quite a strong unit. I don't know as much about their defense. I apologize. That's on me. But I know their defense is a solid defense. And so from that perspective, Baker's going to put up points. Mike Evans is going to go for 1,000 yards. Chris Godwin's going to bounce back from injury. And I think that this team is going to be a very, very good team this upcoming season. That then leads me to number 2 in the division. Number 2, I have the Atlanta Falcons, which isn't a shock. But I really built that up as if I was going to say the Panthers. I'm not saying the Panthers. It's the Falcons. The Falcons have Bijan Robinson, Drake May, and Michael Penix Jr., and that's all you really need. I don't think their offensive line is hugely strong, so it worries me from a sense of, like, if you want Bijan to be the workhorse, I don't think they've made all of the moves they need. I think this is their stepping stone. I think they win next year, but I think that they're a young team, which is exciting. They have some great pieces on defense with a Jesse Bates and a couple of other pieces. I think AJ Terrell is still on the team. So they have some good pieces in their secondary, but I don't see them beating out the Bucs. I think this division is going to be competitive, but not in the way you want to be competitive. And I think as a result, the Falcons are going to finish second. In third, I have the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, we saw a coming out party for Bryce Young. Bryce Young is the guy we thought he was. It took him a little bit to get there, but I think Bryce Young is clearly a smart, competent quarterback, is an accurate quarterback. Obviously, he's shorter, so it's hard, and part of the reason that people could accept Kyler Murray was because of his mobility, and Bryce doesn't have that same mobility. Although I know that he'll be able to step up in ways that he needs to, he can lead that team. They brought in Tedero McMillan, who's a good outside receiver threat. They still have Xavier Legette, who is also a great guy. They have Chuba Hubbard, and they're going to be probably doing a running back by committee with one of their rookie running backs. I'm trying to remember his name, but I cannot remember. I think they're going to be the third best team in the South. I don't see a world in which they are not the third best team in the South. I think they'll probably be a pretty mediocre team, but that's what you want. You want to see stepping stones. You're not going to be, not all teams go from 4 wins to 13 wins. You don't see those kinds of turnarounds a lot in the NFL, and I think that, well, you can see those turnarounds, but in this scenario, I think that it's going to be a situation where you see this change and see this growth progressively. I don't think it's going to be a huge jump. And then last, we have the New Orleans Saints. This may be the worst team in football we have seen in a long time. The New Orleans Saints drafted Tyler Shaw in the second round. I don't know what they saw in Tyler Shaw that made them think, yes, a 25-year-old graduate quarterback that does not have a huge winning record or anything like that is our guy. They named Spencer Rattler as their week 1 starter. Spencer Rattler was on their team last season. They had better options for draft picks if they weren't going to pick a quarterback, but they decided to pick Tyler Shaw, who I don't think is going to be a good quarterback, and is not even going to be their starter week 1. And he's an old guy. He's 20. I know old guy saying old guy. He's 25 as a rookie. That's old. And so you're seeing this shift for the Saints. The Saints are not going to be a good team. I genuinely think they're going to try to lose to get Drew Aller. I don't know why you picked Shaw. I think they might have seen something and wanted to see if it worked, and the experiment did not pan out, and so they're going to go with Spencer Rattler. I think there's going to be a quarterback picked in the first round for them next season, and that's going to end up being the guy they hang their hat on. So, but just to reiterate, the South, I have the Bucs winning, the Falcons second, the Panthers third, and the Saints fourth. And now we're going to get on to the AFC South, where I have the Texans winning. The Texans winning the AFC South, not a huge surprise. You have CJ Stroud, you have Nico Collins, Tank Dell, you have some very prominent team. Obviously, you lost some depth in your O-line, but I think CJ Stroud will manage. I think defensively, you still have Will Anderson. You still have some very good pieces. You still have Derek Stingley Jr., who's one of the top 5 corners in the league. I think that the Texans are going to be a very competent team. I think they're going to win the AFC South. I think that they're a very competent team. They're coming off of an AFC South win. I don't think any of the rest of the teams in the AFC South made huge moves that were like, this is going to be how we win the South. Outside of Jacksonville, none of those teams made huge moves that I'm like, this is going to jump them from the worst to the first. I think the Texans are going to win again. I think they're going to win back to back. In second, I have the Jags. I think Duval. I can't do Duval well. I think Liam Cohen's going to be a very good head coach, a very competent head coach. I think that you're going to see a good OC for Trevor Lawrence. They drafted Travis Hunter, who is a utility knife of a man, a one-of-a-kind prospect. And so I think that you're going to see some really interesting stuff out of Jacksonville. And you have a very bright spot, Brian Thomas Jr., who was one of the best rookie wide receivers last year, outside of Malik Neighbors, who, again, was a bright spot on the Giants. I'm now realizing the Giants are still going to be a good team, but they're not going to be – they're still going to be a probably 6-win team. Going back to it, I think that the Jags are going to go second. I think that their defense, they have Josh Hines Allen, I think is his new name. He renamed himself because he changed his name. But they still have a decent defense. I think Travis Hunter will be an interesting addition to their secondary. I think we'll see a different way it changes, but it's exciting. In third, I have the Tennessee Titans. I think the Tennessee Titans are going to have a big step up with Cam Ward. I think that anything is better than Will Levis. And Cam Ward is going to... The things that I'm hearing out of training camp from Cam Ward make me excited as someone who used to be a Titans fan, being like, this is their guy. They have not had someone in the building that has been like, I'm going to take over. This is my team. And Cam Ward has done that. This man wakes up at shows up at the facility at 4:30 and works a full-time shift. Like, this man is going to change this team around. The issue is he doesn't have the team around him to change it. So this is where patience is going to be valuable, but I think Cam Ward is going to be just such a good player. I think he's going to be such a good pick and position, and I think he's going to make a huge difference for the Tennessee Titans. And in last place, I have the Colts. The Colts named Daniel Jones as their week 1 starter. Daniel Jones isn't a bad, no, he's a bad quarterback. Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. He is a quarterback that struggles in certain cases, and they gave up on Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, they used a 4th round draft pick on. Not 4th round. Sorry, 4th overall draft pick. And they're not giving up on him, I don't think. But he needs to develop. He has talent. He has a big arm. He is talented, but he doesn't have the repertoire that you need. And he has a big arm in it, but isn't accurate. And I think that you're seeing that. And that's a really hard thing, is that he's going to not succeed. And so Daniel Jones got named the week 1 starter. Michael Pittman's a good wide receiver. Running back-wise, they still have Jonathan Taylor. But defensively, they had a tackle leader last year. Like, they have good players. I just don't think they're going to beat out the Titans, the Jags, and the Texans. And so that's the way the cookie crumbles. And so I think that that's how it finishes out, is I think the Texans finish in 1st, the Jags finish in 2nd, the Titans finish in 3rd, and the Colts finish in 4th. And that's it for the first episode of Game Clock. As my clock runs down in the back, in the bottom corner, thank you everyone for watching. I'm so excited to start this journey with you and become your new favorite sports show. I'll see you guys next time on Game Clock, and I'm going to knee it out. Have a good one, everyone. Good evening and good night.